What's up, everybody? Smyers here. Today I want to show you how to make the bass lines to Serotonin and the Way I Like It by Discip, who is an up-and-coming tech house DJ. I got a few comments requesting that I remake some of the basses by Discip, so I wanted to show you how to make these two. These are his most popular tracks, and there's a few things that he does in both of these bass lines that I think are interesting. But before we get started, please go ahead and give this video a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. This first bass line is to Serotonin, and this is what we're going to make today. Pretty groovy bass line, and this bass, throughout the track, he's doing some automation to this bass. This part is just the main drop part, but you can hear the bass line in the earlier parts of the track or during the breaks where it's a lot brighter. And so you can automate like the cutoff for certain notes. You can hear something being automated here, right there. And when I listened to the track, I heard that note a bit brighter. And I found that if I automated the envelope that was controlling the filter, then I can get that sound to be a bit brighter. So this automation line is going to be for the envelope that controls the filter. So let me just go ahead and break this down a bit. Let's start with the bass line. I do want to start off and talk about the pitch bending that's going on. So let me just open up Serum here, and I will initialize a preset. That's just going to give me this default shape, and the default for the pitch bending is going to be 2 and -2. So when you do a pitch bend, and I'm just doing it on the MIDI clip, you can also just do it in the automation lanes in here. You can do pitch bends as well, but I'm doing it in the MIDI clip so that when you get the MIDI clip, when I give these away, you have the actual pitch bending automation in the MIDI clip. So in this view, it goes down almost like about a note or so. I wasn't very specific because the numbers are not like, it doesn't tell you it's 1 semitone or -1 semitone, -2 semitone, but I just estimated that it was probably, that's about 1 semitone or so. And I don't think it's that important that you get the pitch exactly right to be -1 semitone, but that's about halfway in between there. And then same thing for this pitch bend here. So this is just going to be the bass line with a saw wave. And actually, let me just turn this down to -2 octave and turn the level down a bit because it'll be kind of bright. And so these are the notes here. Let's make this a bit bigger. So you can hear the pitch bends going on. Let's show you the envelope one more time so we can see where those pitch bends are happening. And those are going to be the notes for the bass line. And let's go ahead and just remake this from scratch in Serum. So voicing's on mono because it's a bass, envelope 1. Just going to give this a bit of release. And envelope 2, I am going to assign this to, give that a bit of a curve, to the PWM and then also to the filter. So for this, that means I'm just going to do a basic shapes and do the square wave randomness. I'll put this at 0. So I'm going to double click, do 0. And now I've got 2 warp knobs. I will just use one of these warp knobs to go to the alt warp, and I will do PWM. And then assign this envelope 2 to this PWM. Gonna do something small, like about 10% modulation, moving this warp up to about 80%. And then I will add on another basic shape. So let's just go in here, basic shapes, saw wave, randomness to 0, and then listen to how this changes, the sound changes as I play around with this phase. Actually, let's go ahead and take this one to -2 octave as well. Because I had the randomness at 0 for both of these, the phase is going to change how these sound together because they're being combined. And that is why this is important for if you had the randomness at 0, then adjusting this phase can actually produce a different sound than just not if you like put these wavetables on and then don't ignore playing around with the phase. So I found that like around 263 or so. Got to where I wanted it, and then I just add on a filter. We'll do a low 24 filter, turning it on for A and B, and turning on key tracking. And the resonance here, I'm going to take this down a bit. It has a bit more resonance sounding. The resonance sound is a lot harsher on a low 24 versus an MG low 24. So I'm going to take that resonance down, and then envelope 2, assign this to the cutoff. Go ahead and shift and option that, take down the cutoff, and take this up to about 37%. And let's hear how that sounds. Maybe take up the drive a bit. And then for the brighter sections, like with the automation, you can always do a macro to the cutoff or maybe parts of the envelope, or you can just automate the cutoff by itself. For something like that, what I might do is assign the macro to the cutoff, go into the effects, add on something like a low cut to the macro as well, like this. So that it creates this build-up effect. You can also just do this in your DAW by automating different parameters. You could also do this to the decay as well. Something like that, where now I have this macro that's just assigned to different parameters to open it up. A lot of times I'll call this like open because I feel like it's opening it up, making it brighter and everything. Now, let me just take this off because you could also do this to the decay, something like this. Because I felt like some notes were a little bit brighter than others. I don't know which parameter he was automating, but that's what I did in my example. You could also do something where you play around with the velocity. So you could take this velocity and assign this to maybe making the harder you play notes, assign this to the decay so that if I'm playing this, I could just turn up the velocity on one of the notes and then I would get this decay a lot longer. Then you wouldn't have to do like automation like I did. Or even assign it to, or even assign this to the cutoff, which is sometimes I do this to make notes brighter when you hit them harder. So there's a way that you can automate it. And then I just added on a bit of a low cut and then a boost around 1.3 kilohertz. So the thing that I find unique about his bass lines is doing that pitch bending. I find that he's doing some pitch bending in the next bass line I'll show you. And these are pitch bends where you, like, it's in the key where you almost can't tell what's happening to the bass because it's in a lower, the bass is like in a lower key where it's hard to tell. So I would recommend like doing what I was saying, just pitching up the bass line to 12 semitones to hear what that pitch bending sounds like. And just to show you an example, I extracted the bass from the actual song using a la-la and pitched this one up 12 semitones, and we can listen to that pitch bend down. Right there, you can hear that pitch bend going down. And then there's that second pitch bend. So that's how I was able to hear it. Now let's go on to the next one. That Serotonine was his probably most popular one on Spotify. And let's go to this one. This one's called The Way, let me relabel this, The Way I Like It. So you can see it. And let's play this one. Same thing with having a pitch bend. Let's take a look at this bass line and go to the MIDI here. So we've got the pitch bending happening just on this note that repeats. Let me just duplicate this and take off the kickstart because I have that pumping with it. Initialize it. So you can hear that wow sound right there. Is the pitch bending down. And then same thing we can take a listen to. I extract the bass from his track. Let's pitch it up 12 semitones and hear that pitching down. You can hear it there. And there's a lot of sidechain going on. I almost hear also like maybe the pitch bend also goes, it's hard to tell because it's being sidechained, but it might also go up here like this. So let me play mine. And maybe that's it. That could be it as well. So that's kind of cool. We could do something like that. Or let's listen to how it was before. Either way, I think that sounds cool. They both sound pretty close to how it was. Now this bass line, let's just go ahead and take a look at the MIDI here. So you're just really playing a D note with a bit of a pitch bend on one of the notes. And well, one of the D notes is an octave above. So now this bass, I mean, this sound is pretty easy, simple, because it's just going to be voicings on mono. So let's see, do I have anything? Okay, so let's take off these effects and the filter. And the voicing I set on mono, this is my envelope one, just gave this a bit of release here. I just have the default shapes, like when you load this up, it's default shapes, octave -2, randomness 0. And I added on this bend. You can tell it takes away some of the boominess and adds a bit more narrowness to it, I guess. But that's just a way to, like, I could have probably just EQ'd it, but I was just playing around with this bend and I thought that sounded cool way to alter the sound. Envelope 2, this is going to be the shape I'm using that's going to be assigned to the filter. Once again, I'm using a low 24 filter. I only have A on, so I can take off the B. No key tracking on this one. Resonance is lower at a 4 or 5, and then drive is like that. And this is a pluck that you've probably heard so many times in tech house. What's a little bit more unique, you've got a pretty long release on these envelopes, and then we're using that pitch bend. The amounts are 2 and -2 once again. And then I'm adding in this EQ to just scoop out some of that bass. And then the hyper, to me, it sounded like his bass had some kind of chorus on it. Maybe it was this dimension. So I've got some of the hyper turned on. That's at about 20%, and the dimension 10% and about 50% on that. And so that's the bass line for his song, The Way I Like It. So those are two bass lines by Discip. I think that he's a new up-and-coming tech house DJ. I think a lot of people are really enjoying his bass lines, and so hopefully that gives you some more insight into how to create bass lines like his. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. And if you'd like to check out my Serum preset packs, head on over to store.samsmyers.com.